The human soldier did not want attention. He was small in the maps of the alien kingdom, placed on a quiet border post where nothing big happened. Other species in the region said humans were soft, only good for talk and small tasks. They watched him with polite pity when his patrol ship arrived and he walked out in old boots and a plain jacket. The soldier was named Mark, but the soldiers at the post just called him the human. He knew how others saw him, kept doing his work anyway. On a fog-thin morning, a supply convoy from a nearby settlement broke down near the border. The convoy had a damaged fuel pump and a failing life support module. Local crews had tried to fix it. But the alien engineers could not match the old human field repair tricks Mark had from years in rough places. The convoy would fail before the next trade ship arrived. Villagers would lose heat and food if the convoy failed. Mark went out without orders. He crawled into the wreck with simple tools and his quiet mind. The alien engineers watched, thinking he would only make things worse. He opened the old casing, looked with careful hands, and started connecting cables in a way that made no sense to the strict technical manuals of the Alien Council. He used a trick he learned from his early days on frozen moons. He rerouted a tiny power loop and balanced the pressure with a piece of an old spacer ring. The pump hummed, the air filter spun, and the convoy came back to life. Word spread fast. The local liaison officer sent a message up the chain. Human soldier fixed the convoy with old tricks. No mass tech needed. The message reached the curious ears of the alien king's daughter, Lara. She had heard stories about humans before, about their strange stubbornness, their odd loyalty, and the way they kept going when others would give up. She asked her guard to let her see the border. The court said no. The king's advisors said she was wasting time. She went anyway. Laura traveled in secret, wearing a simple cloak that hid her royal markings. She arrived just as the convoy pulled out, cheerful people waving to the human soldier who sat alone, wiping grease from his hands. She saw how the aliens who had tried first looked at him not with respect yet, but with a shifting thought. Mark did not expect a royal visitor. He saw her approach, off-duty and straightened, because humans had been trained to stand right when others came. He did not bow unless asked. He treated her as another person. "You fix more than the pump," Lara said quietly. Her voice held a soft strength. "You kept them alive for another night." Mark looked up slowly. He did not know who she was, only that she had calm in her step. "I do what is in front of me," he said. The machine was broken. It needed hands. Smiled. She was not used to honesty without a show. The two of them talked there, as the sun slid down behind the hills. He told her about hard training, about being sent to quiet posts to watch and not to push. She told him she watched her people grow. Careful and small under the weight of politics, afraid to change, she did not show her royal side. He did not show his uniform rank. The talk was simple, like two tired travelers sharing water. Back in the capital, the court burned with gossip. Lara's secret visit was known quickly. The king heard that his daughter met the human soldier. The advisors were loud. "She will cause trouble," one said. "This is not how allies are chosen," another said. The rival empire to the north had been watching the kingdom for weakness. Small signs of internal split were what they wanted to push further. Lara's private interest in the human became a trembling thread inside palace plans. She asked to meet him again. This time the court had to know. They arranged a small meeting near the border under the pretense of a cultural exchange. He sent a minor official to watch, and the main palace guards stayed away so the moment would feel less like a trap. Mark came, careful with part of his small team behind, not out of fear but habit. Lara arrived with only 2 attendants who kept silent distance. Their second talk went deeper. She showed him the old map of her people's borderlines, drawn in faded ink. She told him the rival empire was not just testing supply routes. They were placing advisors, planting small doubts, making old allies question loyalty. "To push us to choose partners who stay in the same old shape," she said. "I want something different. I want someone who can stand. Not because they were told to, but because they choose to," Mark said. Humans survive because we keep trying. We do not wait for perfect orders. If you want someone who acts when it matters, I can help. But I do not know your rules, she nodded. That was enough. Lara sensed something in him that the royal books did not show. He did not seek power or title. He wanted to do right in front of him, even if the world around him called it small. She left with a quiet promise. She would bring him to the court. And she would not let the old voices drown the truth she saw. The day ended with the border quiet again. Mark went back to his small post, thinking the meeting was strange but not dangerous. Lara returned to the palace, and for the first time, she kept a small relic from the conversation. A simple, human patch he gave her, worn at the edge, that read, "Keep moving." She placed it inside a small box on her table, near the Queen's old letters, and kept it there without telling anyone. The seed of something new had been planted, and no one fully understood its shape yet. Part 2 Rising. Tenchanthe Kingdom's halls had long been filled with careful voices. Each word weighed like stone. The idea of a human soldier standing beside the royal daughter was a sun crack in the old ceiling. Lara had a quiet plan. She did not announce it. She started small. She walked the markets in disguise with the human patch hidden under her sleeve. She watched how ordinary citizens reacted to human merchants, to human workers, to human aid crews, who came once and left without show. She wanted the court to see that the human presence was not chaos. It was raw, honest effort that filled holes others ignored. The rival empire across the border watched these shifts. Their secret agents had already spread rumors that the alien kingdom's loyalties were soft. When they heard the unusual pairing was forming royal daughter and human soldier, they sent soft voices to stoke fear. They whispered false stories to the palace that the human was a spy who had come to steal secrets, that he had hidden weapons in the convoy repair, that he could turn the people's quiet awe into rebellion. One messenger even claimed the human had been seen talking to the enemy scouts the night before. A lie built of misunderstanding and jealousy. The court pressure rose. Nobles who had kept their power by following old codes saw danger in change. The king's main advisor called for a public statement. The princess must choose a partner from the royal bloodlines or risk destabilizing old treaties, Lara responded, by doing something the court did not expect. She stood in a small ceremony in the palace gardens and said, in a quiet voice that carried, she would choose a partner, not by blood, but by action. She would announce that she had chosen the human soldier who had saved lives and had the courage to meet her honestly. She did not call him a title. She called him her partner. The palace erupted. Some laughed out loud, others went pale. The rival? Empire spies sent immediate reports. The kingdom is breaking itself from the old mold. The official council meeting was called. The advisors demanded explanation. The king, tired from years of rule, saw the worry in his daughter's eyes and the anger in the advisor's tone. He remembered how his own father had made alliances with carved names, and how those old ties had cracked under pressure years later. He let Lara speak. She brought Mark to the hall. He walked with simple steps, his uniform showing small patches from years of service, not cleaned to impress. The nobles expected a nervous man. They got someone calm, with honest eyes. Lara did not make a speech full of royal fluff. She said he helped when others would not. He did not ask for reward. He stood when there was nothing in it for him, except doing right. I choose him because the kingdom needs people who act not for title, but for purpose. The rival empire's envoy, already inside as part of old treaty observation, watched closely. Some of their agents tried to push the story. He is a spy, one said bluntly. Mark did not respond with anger. He only said, I am here to help. If the kingdom wants peace, I know how to keep small fires from burning into wars. If the kingdom wants weakness, then I step back. His voice was simple, low, and the hall heard the truth in it. The court did not accept his answer without push. One noble demanded a trial, a test. Another called him reckless. The king's advisor quietly suggested exile the human to avoid future trouble. Lara pushed back. If you exile him because you fear change, you ignore the threat that is already at the door, she said. The rival empire is watching our fear. They want us to bend. We will stand different. Let us test the partnership, not kill it before it begins. The king balanced old fear and new possibility. He allowed a bond trial, but in his own terms. The trial would not be a fight. It would be a public mission. The rival empire had been trying to break the kingdom's internal strength by staging unrest in the border towns. The trial would send Lara and Mark to lead the relief effort for a town under tension. They would work openly, together, and the court would judge not by words, but by result. Preparations began. Rival agents tried to sabotage the mission. False letters were sent to stir panic in the town, making it look like the kingdom. The news of what happened at the border town and the festival moved fast in the kingdom. Some people started to talk quietly in markets and low halls. The human soldier and the princess worked together, and those who saw it felt something new. Inside the palace, the old voices grew louder. Some thought the partnership was dangerous. Others felt the result and could not deny it. Lara's choice had become more than a private thing. It was now a test of what the kingdom would become. The rival empire watched all of it. They had spent years waiting for cracks in the alien kingdom. A princess choosing a human soldier won. With no royal blood, no high name was the kind of crack they could push. Their watchers sent stories into the palace like poison whispers. They said the human was a spy. They claimed he had secret orders from distant powers. They planted rumors that the princess was being controlled by emotions that she would drag the kingdom into conflict with foolish decisions. Some small nobles began to repeat those words, because repeating danger kept them safe from blame if it grew real. Lara felt the pressure. She saw the doubt in the faces of the council members when she entered. She did not reply with anger. Instead, she stepped out into open places, quietly, without show. She visited a small training yard where border guards drilled. She watched the drills, then asked simple questions about their concerns. She had her own guards talk to Mark in private, and he, in quiet words, showed them how he had fixed the convoy and how he saw sabotage patterns in small signals. From the rival empire, the guards went back to their posts with new understanding. Lara brought a small group of town leaders to the palace and let them speak. They did not use big titles. They only said, "We needed help." They came. They kept us safe. That is fact. The court responded with a plan to force clarity. King agreed to an official hearing. It would not be secret. The hall filled with nobles, elders, the rival empire's observer envoy sitting in the back, and common representatives. The hearing would ask, why does the princess choose this human? What is the purpose? Is the bond a threat or a strength? Lara did not ask for favors. She brought Mark with her. He walked with slow, quiet steps, not because he was afraid, but because he knew many eyes watched him, and every small movement could be twisted. The hearing started. The main advisor stood and spoke first. He held the old scroll of protocol and read from it. Allies are chosen by blood, treaty, and promise from known houses. This is how we keep peace. Let's bring in an outside, untested, unblooded partner is to invite confusion. What if he demands more? What if his presence makes enemies think we are weak because we needed help? A few nobles clicked their tongues. Some lowered their heads, expecting the princess to step back. Lara stood. She did not wear the heavy crown robes. She wore a plain dress with the old human patch hidden under her sleeve. She spoke clear and short. The kingdom is not safe because we follow old lists. We are safe when people who care act when danger comes. The human did not ask for his place. He showed up. He helped when others ignored pain. Choose him because he chose to stand. You ask about risk. There is a risk in doing nothing while the rival empire moves. I ask you to see what you saw, not what you feared. The rival empire's envoy leaned forward. He did not speak loudly. He asked one question. Soldier, what do you want from this kingdom? Mark looked at him, then at the council. He did. Not use big words, he said. I want the kingdom safe. I want the people at the border to sleep without hearing whispers of invasion. I do not want power. I want simple work done right. If you call that partner, then I will stand. If you call it something else, I step back. I just want to help where it matters. Some in the hall tried to make the answer sound like weakness. A noblewoman asked if Mark had promised loyalty to any other power. He said no. Another said, if he was here without clear rule, how would the kingdom control him? Mark answered, I answer to truth in front of me. If I break trust, you can send me away. That is simple. The hearing went on for hours. Stories were dragged up from old history, times when new allies failed, times when strange choices brought chaos. Lara stayed. She did not raise her voice. She sat beside Mark, listening, and when needed, she added small facts from their shared missions. The rival empire tried to push further. It released a secret message that looked like a warning from a border town far away. The message claimed the human had been seen meeting with unknown scouts. The palace scrambled. The king sent a small team to check. Lara asked to go with them. Mark went to 8. They traveled quietly, and the truth came back fast. The meeting was with refugees who had escaped a small raid, frightened, and the human had given them water and a map. The rival spies had twisted it into something dangerous. The king's advisor had to swallow the truth. The hearing resumed with that false story broken. The tide did not fully turn yet. Some nobles still whispered that a lowborn partner could one day demand high rewards. A small group asked for a trial, something practical, not only words. The king agreed to the trial, but he made the trial public. Said Lara and Mark would go to the town near the divided line where unrest was growing. The rival empire had agents there, stoking fear and trying to take the town by making the people lose trust in the kingdom. The trial would show if the partnership could calm fear, fix real problems, and keep the rival empire's push from growing. Preparation for the mission began. Rival spies tried to block supply lines to slow the team's travel. False alerts were sent to draw attention away. Mark spent nights going through old patrol reports. He found patterns. Small fires started in supply caches, messages swapped to confuse loyal guards, and strangers stirring the crowd with words that did not match local dialects. He shared these with Lara, and she used her influence to redirect some of the court's quiet support to send aid ahead. Their small team moved before the rival could make a larger show. On the road, Lara and Mark spoke often, not with romance, but with purpose. She asked him how he kept calm when the noise rose. Said, I remember what had to be fixed next. If I looked too far, I missed the broken thing in front of me. She told him how the old rules made her people freeze when the world moved fast. You act, she said. I learned to make the hall listen. They practiced small signals, how to move in a crowd so that others would not panic. How to give quiet order without sounding like command. How to let the people feel seen, not controlled. They reached the town as the rival empire's voice tried to raise fear, claims of coming invasion, hidden traps, and traitors among the town leaders. The people were tired. Some had already started to leave, believing escape was safer. Lara and Mark did not come with soldiers in heavy armor. They went first to the market, then to the small temple, then to the hill where people looked over the valley. The human soldier helped repair broken water pumps, using quick hands and simple words. The princess visited the scared families, sitting beside them, listening. Together, they held a small public meeting where they showed the real enemy fear seated by Lysand, gave simple ways to watch out without turning neighbor against neighbor. The rival empire struck. Hidden saboteurs burned a small supply cache and blamed it on the kingdom being weak. Mark saw the smoke and moved. He organized villagers to move crops and water quietly. Alara stood before the small crowd and said, They want you to run. Stay. We fix. We hold. Their work calmed the town. The rivals' claim of chaos failed as the people's own voices spoke. The human and the princess did not leave. They stayed. They gave us tools, not orders. Back in the capital, the hearing waited. For the result, town's leader sent back a clear message. The trial was not over, but the partnership had held the line. The rival empire's whisperers tried one last move. They sent a message that the human and the princess had met secretly in the night to plan a takeover. The palace saw the message and brought back truths. Those meetings were planning food deliveries and watching for real enemy moves. The rival lies failed again. The tension built. The court would vote soon. Lara and Mark returned with the town's report, and with quiet proof that their partnership did not break the town, it held it. The hearing turned toward the next step. The rival empire read the outcome and started new whispers. If the bonds succeeded here, they would find a deeper test. The kingdom did not know what would come next. The partnership had started to change the old map. Now some still feared the change. Others, watching the towns around the border, felt relief. The story moved on a sharp line. Mark kept his quiet focus. Lara pushed for small voices to be heard. Outside, the rival empire shifted its plans. It would try to break the trial not with open war, but with another kind of challenge. The kingdom prepared. The next part of the test was coming, asked ChatGPT. The kingdom tried to show calm after the town relief mission. Lara and Mark's action was still fresh in the minds of the people in that border region. Some in the court whispered that the human soldier might actually help. Others still held to the old fear, watching for a mistake. The rival empire saw the small spark of change and decided to push harder. They wanted to break the new bond before it could grow. Their plan was subtle. They would cause chaos during the royal festival, then point fingers at the outsider partnership and claim it was a threat to the kingdom's stability. The royal festival was a long-held tradition. It was a day when the king opened his gates a little, letting common people bring small gifts. When music played in square after square, and when the kingdom showed strength not with weapons but with shared life, the rival empire sent false messages into the palace, claiming a small group of radicals planned to attack the festival to shame the kingdom and force it into a harsh response. They also bribed a few low officials to spread rumors that the human soldier and the princess would use the festival to build a secret power base. The court grew uneasy. Some nobles quietly asked if Mark should stay away. Lara refused. She said, the people needed to see him not hidden, but with her doing real work. The festival morning came. Tents and banners filled the capital's central plaza. Children ran with small mechanical birds, singers sang in clear voices, and merchants sold sweet fruits from far planets. Mark stood next to Lara in the crowd, wearing a plain uniform, his rank patch worn and unpolished. He helped with small task-lifting crates, guiding confused visitors, calming a scared child with a gentle tone. Lara moved with him, not above him. She introduced him to small groups, not as a curiosity, but simply, this is my partner. The work we did for the border towns? The phrase hung in the air like a quiet promise. Some people nodded. Some sneered. The rival empire's watchers waited in shadow. The real plan began when the largest music stage, built near the king's balcony, lit up in flames without warning. Thick black smoke twisted into the sky. People screamed and scattered, yelled for guards. The rival empire's agents circulated fast messages. See, the festival is unsafe because of the strange bond. They brought chaos. Panic sharpened, but Mark and Lara moved before fear fully took hold. Mark ran toward the stage, pushing through the crowd. He saw that the fire was not random. Thin wires had been placed under the stage boards. Small burning charges were set to explode into the crowd if the fire got worse. The rival empire had also arranged cloaked saboteurs to shout that the human had done it. Some of them wore weak copies of his uniform and pointed fingers while slipping back into the crowd. Ada raised her voice calmly. Hold, do not move. Away in fear. Help the people first. She stepped with Mark, not in front, but at his side. The two of them acted fast. Mark ordered small teams of palace workers and unarmed guards to form a line to carry water and beat back the flames. He used his field training to cut the fake wires and disarm the remaining charges. Explaining quietly how the fire was staged to look like a failure of the kingdom's safety, Lara went to the frightened stage crew and told them to step back and help organize the injured. She moved through the crowd, using her position to keep the panic from turning into a stampede. The false saboteurs tried to push blame by shouting, but Lara stepped near them and asked a simple question. Who gave you orders? Their stories tangled under her steady presence. Mark saw a small clerk try to slip away with a crate of fake evidence meant to be planted on him. He caught the clerk's wrist, and the man dropped the crate full of false papers. While the fire died, a new threat showed itself. The rival empire had hired a local angry group to start a fight near the food stalls, hoping that the chaos would spread and the partnership would look like the cause of instability. The group started to shout that the human and the princess were breaking old law by walking together. Some nobles near the balcony leaned forward, waiting for a mistake, for anger. Mark did not answer with fighting words. He stepped forward, opened his hands, and said in loud, clear voice, "We are here to help. Look at what is real. The fire was planned. The hate is pushed. Let us calm this together." Lara added, "Your anger is used. If you hurt each other, now they win. The kingdom is stronger when it holds, not when it breaks for rumors." The crowd watched. The angry group lost their heat when the princess faced them and did not lash out. And when the human soldier did not raise his voice, the rival empire's whisperers tried again, this time pointing to a small group of foreign merchants and claiming their goods were hidden weapons. Mark walked to the stalls, lifted the covers, and showed the honest goods: dried fruit, simple cloth, small mechanical toys. The merchants bowed with quiet respect. The air shifted. The story the rival empire wanted of instability started by. The human and princess fell apart under clear work and calm words. The king's guard finally moved in, detaining a few of the saboteurs. When officials examined the burned stage and the wires, they found the devices built to look like failure, but built by outside hands. False papers meant to accuse Mark were empty shells with no real command signatures. The crowd saw what happened. Clearly, the human soldier was not the cause. He was part of the solution. The rival empire's agents tried to slither through the crowd with new lies. But Lara had already formed a small open circle where survivors told their story. One stage technician said, "The fire came from under. It was not a mistake." "Wanted us to fear each other," an old merchant added. "The princess and the human kept us from running. They stayed when others would have left." News moved fast. Those watching from other systems heard that the festival almost turned into bloodshed, but was saved by a strange pair. The rival empire twisted their own report. They said the kingdom had a crisis because it made bad choices. The palace papers told a different story. They published how cooperation had stopped the real attack. The court grew noisy again. The trial's moment had been stronger than words. The people felt it. The nobles saw the crowd's soft murmur shift from doubt to admiration. The king sat in his private chamber, looking over both sides of the report. Traditions told him to punish the unusual, to calm the old maps. His daughter's eyes did not ask for reward. They asked for truth to be seen. Rival spies did one last move. They tried to spread a story that, after the festival, Mark and Lara met in secret to plan a new power. A few pages of their schedule were taken out of context, simple notes. It's about how to help the border towns and how to improve supply lines. When the king saw those notes, he asked Lara to explain. She did not defend with royal walls. She invited him to the plaza, where villagers still praised the calm day, where the stage crew fixed the music board together with human and alien tech, where children were playing with the small toys from the merchants. She showed him the repair logs Mark helped create. She showed him the faces of people who were not used to being helped so simply. The king felt the pressure from old advisors. He also felt the quiet shift in the city. The trial had not ended with a result yet. The court would vote soon. Exile. The human to stop the noise, or accept the partnership and use this new strength. Lara and Mark had not asked for applause. They had done their work. Now the kingdom would decide if it wanted to change how it chose allies or go back to the old safe maps and pretend the threat was gone. The story's tension grew. Mark kept his quiet watch, not celebrating. Lara walked the palace corridors, with small looks toward the council's doors. Outside, the rival empire updated its own plans, noting that the bond trial had failed to break the new link. They prepared for the next push. Inside, the people whispered that sometimes the ones who were seen as weak held the truth steady when everything tried to bend. The court took days to argue. Some nobles wanted to cut the new bond before it grew. Others, seeing the calm in the border towns and the saved festival, whispered that maybe change could work. The king agreed to push the trial further. This time, the test would not be public drama. It would be a real mission with real risk. The princess and the human would go together into the old ruin of the first offenders. The ruin held a relican ancient crystal network that could link the kingdom's defense systems and make their early warning sensors much stronger. If activated right, it would help protect the borders for years. If mishandled, the rival empire could capture it and use it to blind the kingdom. Lara and Mark prepared. The court gave formal escorts, but the king gave them only a small force, enough to show that he did not fear the journey, but not so large that it looked like a parade. The rival empire heard of the mission from its own spies. They saw another chance. If they could ambush the pair in the ruin, capture the relic, and kill or disgrace the human soldier, they could break the bond and show the kingdom that the new path led to disaster. Their strike team moved ahead, hiding in the ruin's old shadows. While their diplomats spread doubt that the relic activation would anger the ancient guardians and bring a curse. The ruin lay in a canyon of broken stone, half buried by time and dust. Its entrance had tall carved doors, long cracked, and ancient symbols that had faded. Old stories said the relic chose its users, not by rank but by trust. Lara and Mark entered together, the small group behind them quiet. The air inside was cool, without wind, and the light came from thin blue veins in the walls that were not glowing, only faint like cold breath. The relic chamber was deep. The floor was patterned with lines that shifted slightly when walked on, like a slow heartbeat. The rival strike team waited near the middle hall, hidden behind a broken guardian statue. They had small, silent weapons and false uniforms ready to make it look like the human had brought them. Their leader watched the pair move, waiting for the moment to spring the trap. The ancient traps of the ruin were real. The first test came when a corridor closed behind Lara and Mark with heavy stone slabs, cutting off the small force. Mark did not panic, touched the wall with careful fingers, and felt small hums under the surface. He whispered to Lara, "Old tech uses pressure and pattern. Stay calm. Don't step on shifting tiles too fast." She watched the lines and followed his slow steps. They moved through a safe path while alarms, ancient but weak, hummed and then quieted when they stepped. Right. The small escort behind them followed, learning to move in the same slow rhythm. At the chamber, the relic sat in the center, a ring of broken stone holding a crystal core. The core was dark, like deep water, with threads of light sitting inside, but not moving. Around it were faded inscriptions. Lara stepped forward first, placing her hand near the stone, not on it. She spoke a quiet phrase from her childhood, an old royal line about balance and keeping promise. The stone reacted. The inner threads flickered like breath. Mark examined the inscriptions. He found patterns that matched human field logic's simple loops that closed after trust was given, a handshake in metal form. He placed his hand beside hers, both of them just touching the air near the relic. The core shivered. The light came. Out, soft, and then solid lines formed between their hands and the stone. The bond trial had moved into something deeper. The rival team waited for the moment to strike. They thought the activation would weaken them, that the ancient defense would try to test the outsiders. Instead, the relic did something unexpected. It reflected choice. The core opened a channel of recognition that looked not at blood or name, but at action. It showed a ghost image of the human and the princess working together in the plaza, saving the festival, saving the town. It showed their quiet cooperation, not loud or loud-made. The relic absorbed those images and accepted them. Light spread through the lines in the floor, and a protective field bloomed around the chamber. Thin and humming, ready to extend outward. The rival leader panicked. He sent a small team forward to attack, while others created a distraction deeper in the ruin. The distraction triggered a fall in a side passage, collapsing stone and making loud noise. Some of the escort went to check while Mark and Lara stayed. Near the relic, The rival strike team burst into the main chamber, wearing stolen pieces of local guard patterns to confuse the defenders. They fired silent pulses aimed at the relic core to break its link. Mark stepped between the attackers and the relic. He had no heavy weapon. He used a simple move. He grabbed a broken stone shard and threw it to strike the lead attacker's targeting gear, throwing off aim. Lara shouted in a calm voice, "Stop! We are not your enemy." The rival team did not stop. One of the attackers tried to take Lara's side, to pull her away, but the relic reacted. The relic's field burst outward. It did not blast them with fire. It turned the attacker's energy pulses into soft static that drifted off harmlessly. Their systems confused. The strike team's leader froze. The relic, linked by the bond between Lara and Mark, had a new function. It could reflect conflict back into the minds of aggressors for a moment, showing them the truth of what they did, the harm, and the faces of the people they tried to hurt. The leader staggered as the field touched him. Seeing the festival in flames and the town burned, the angry faces of those who believed lies, it broke his certainty. The rest, shaken, lowered their weapons. The rival empire's distraction deeper in the ruin failed to capture the attention of the main group because the relic sent a quiet pulse through the old network, warning the palace through the newly linked early sensors. The palace guard, watching from the outside, sent small reinforcement quickly. The rival empire's strike team realized the mission was failing and tried to retreat. The relic did not block their exit. It made them slow just enough that the escort could capture the leader without bloodshed. The relic did not kill, it held. The captured leader, under the glow, could not lie easily. When the king's messenger arrived with new guard, he listened to the rival's own agent tell the story of how he walked into the chamber, expecting easy victory, and found a defense that was not weapon and not trick, but a mirror showing their intent. The bond trial's results spread back to the capital, before the group returned. The court saw the rival empire's plan fail, not by force, but by quiet strength. The relic had activated because of shared trust, not because of bloodline. The new defense link pulsed across the border, sending a calm signal that said, "We are joined." The rival empire's diplomats tried to spin the capture as their own failure in secrecy, but the people who had watched the alert felt the difference. The bond had grown into something that touched the kingdom's safety in a real way. Lara and Mark returned with the captured leader, not with loud victory banners, but with clear reports. The relic chamber was now sending steady data to the palace. The king saw the relic's quiet shield hold on their border sensors. Advisors tried to twist it into something dangerous, but the captured rival agent's truth came out when he spoke under the relic's calm watch. Their plan had been to force a scandal, to break the humans' trust, to steal the relic and set the kingdom against itself. The trial had done the opposite. The princess and the human did not grab power. They activated protection that cost nothing to others and held back. The rival empire's push without blood spilled. The court was quieter. Now, the public not. The nobles stalked of the moment the old stone chose two different beings to touch it and activate the defense. The king's voice at the council was soft when he said, "We tested. The bond did not break us. It built us." Some nobles still feared change, but the weight of proof made their opposition weaker. Outside, in the rival empire, new plans formed. The failure had not ended their intent. They saw that the human soldier was no random helper, and that the princess had not just chosen him for drama. Their next moves would have to consider the new shield and the new trust. Inside the kingdom, the people started to tell the story in quiet bars and small shops. The human and the princess walked into the old place, faced hidden enemies, and turned a ruin into a living shield. The bond trial had moved from doubt to real power. The next step would be the final public choice. Would the partnership be allowed to stand, or would old maps and fear cut it before it could shape the future? The air in the court was different now. The old noise of fear and rumor still lingered like dust, but under it a new sound grew, a soft, steady talk among common people, a quiet nod from border guards, a merchant who now kept a small human maid, patched with his goods. Lara and Mark did not demand change. They kept doing their work. The kingdom's leaders had to choose. The trial had shown results. The town safe, the festival saved, the relic linked and protecting the border. The rival empire's plan caught and exposed. The king called a council meeting that everyone watched, the council hall filled. Nobles wore their usual layers of color and silk, but their faces carried tired lines. The advisors spoke first. Some still used old words. "This bond is strange," one said. "The human has no blood, right?" The princess broke tradition. "What if this opens new fractures?" Another added, "It worries our old allies. Might see us as weak for bending to outside helpers." Then the people's voice came not loud, not from the palace crowd, but from the reports of the border. Villages, the stage crew, the merchants. A representative from the town had been brought in. He stood in front of the council and said, "We were ready to lose our homes when the fires came." The princess and the human did not leave. They came. They stayed. They fixed what was broken. "We are safer now, because they were together." Small murmurs spread. The rival empire sent a thin message with their diplomat already in the capital. It was careful, not loud. They had watched their agent caught and heard him speak. HFY did not bring threats. He brought a quiet request for a meeting. The king kept the rival in waiting, showing the world that they watched but did not act with fear. The rival's message said simply, "We see what you built. We will not push where strength grows differently. We wish to talk about boundaries." With new respect, their tone had changed. It was not a surrender. It was the beginning of cautious watching. The king turned to his daughter. Lara stood beside Mark, not in front, not behind. She did not wear the heavy ceremonial dress. Wore a simple robe with a small patch near her chest, the human patch she had kept since the first meeting. The council quieted as she spoke. She did not argue with old rules. She said, "We tested the bond. It is not a loss of who we are. It is adding what we need." The human did not come to take. He came because something needed fixing. He did not demand title. He worked. The relic did not open for blood or high name. It opened for trust. "I ask that we build on what we saw, not tear it down because it is new." The king's gaze fell on Mark. The human did not stand tall like a hero in a story. He leaned forward slightly, hands on the simple table, eyes calm. When the king asked him to speak, Mark did not try to win praise. He said, "I am not here to rule. I am here to help. Your people needed the town safe, the festival calm, the border watch strong. That is what we did. If being partner means I sit at your table and listen, I will. If it means I keep fixing the small problems others ignore, I will. Just don't cut what works because it is strange." The room held its breath. The old advisors tried quiet words again, but the king raised his hand. He had seen the relic's shield pulse when enemies tried to step across the border. He had seen the festival crowd quietly clap when the human and princess acted without show. The choice was not easy. To accept the bond was to change the way the kingdom chose allies. To reject it was to go back to old maps and risk the rival empire pushing where fear lived. Finally, the king spoke. "We are not the same as before." He said, "The world around us is changing. We tested something that could have broken us. Instead, it built a defense that did not cost blood. It built trust across old lines, and it showed strength from quiet work. The human will be more than a story. He will sit with advisors as partner, not by blood, but by purpose." The princess's choice stands. We will give them the council's seat, and we will adjust old laws so that allies can be chosen by action when needed. The hall shifted. Some old nobles clenched their hands and said nothing. Others slowly nodded, not yet proud, but quiet. The word spread outside the palace. The human partner had not been exiled. He was given a place. Lara and Mark did not celebrate loudly. They went back to work. The new order was not yet solid. It had to show it would last beyond speeches. The next days moved fast. Lara opened a small council group that included Common Voices border captains, a town leader, a merchant, and Mark. The group began to meet in a room with simple light and no heavy throne. They talked about bad supply lines, about the rival empire's new quiet moves, and about how to make the relic's early warning better without making the people feel watched. Mark suggested small patrol changes that used local trade routes, so no one felt an occupying force. Lara pushed the old court to listen. The changes were slow, but people saw results. Fewer smuggler routes used by rival spies, faster aid for the towns, and a small reduction in tension along the northern border. The rival empire's envoy finally came for the meeting. The hall for diplomacy was large but not cold. The rival diplomat watched Lara and Mark sit together side by side, then speak to the king in calm voice. When he spoke, he did not try to hide his surprise. "Your new bond," he said, "is not weakness. It is not the same as before. We will not push where we once tried. We want to keep the border clear. We'll watch how your new rules work. Let this be a start, not a test." The human soldier had once been called soft and useless by those outside his small post. Now, he listened while the rival diplomat spoke, and he replied simply, "We want peace. When you push old fear, you make it harder. When you talk, the borders stay calm." The diplomat did not answer with anger. He answered with a quiet nod, leaving the path open but watched. The kingdom's new order was not perfect. Some groups still tried to push old laws, saying the human would one day demand more. The princess used her influence to soften those fears. She visited villages with Mark, not in show, but in small work. She helped deliver food to a remote farm where the old irrigation had broken. The human soldier taught the farmers small repair tricks, and they passed those to others. The people began to see the partnership not as a show or threat, but as a part of daily life that made things easier. The rival empire did not stop entirely. They moved their attention to smaller corners, testing rumors, watching if the bond would crack. The new early warning from the relic caught one small spy group trying to cross a supply line with fake documents. The human and the princess did not punish harshly. They used the capture to show the rival that the kingdom could respond without cruelty, only clear strength hold the line, then offer a chance to change. The story closed with a quiet moment. Lara and Mark stood on a balcony above the city at dusk. The lights were soft, the market below still moving. She handed him a small new patch, this one simple, with a symbol of the relic's linked lines. He did not put it on. He kept it in his hand. She said, "We changed more than rules. We changed how they see help." He nodded, looking at the streets where human and alien children played near a shared fountain. Far away, the rival empire sent new reports. They would not declare war. They would not cheer victory. They watched. The galaxy began to whisper that the alien kingdom had built a new kind of strength, quiet, joined, and unexpected. Is the human. A soldier who once fixed a broken pump at the border had become a partner in the council. And the princess who chose him had shifted the shape of old power. The new order had begun. Ask ChatGPT.